Peace, family. Welcome back to the Campaign TV show. I am your host, Brother King Cam, and I have a special interview lined up for us tonight. So, as you know, every time we do a podcast show, I need everybody to show up and show out in the comment section. I need you to let us know where you checking in from, what city, what state, and just tap in the comment section. We want all of the YouTube family. If this is your first time seeing the show, I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, and I need you to hit that bell to stay notified each and every time we drop a video. Shout out to the Facebook family as well. Y'all need to get busy in the comment section. So, and while y'all doing that, we're going to go ahead and start with our intro, then get right to our powerful interview.
Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own.
Not your average nigga, I'm a guy out the hood. They can't downplay me. I came up, I'm elevated. I ain't gotta say too much for them to know I'm coming for what's mine. You know they see me in my presence, say they see how I'm coming. Young, but you not just gonna finesse me like you did my peoples. Then back when you said they was emancipated. This ain't that. Your head too big, you feeling yourself. The game wasn't fair, you had the advantage, we wasn't educated. I don't look at you people the same. Nah. Your worst nightmare, my skin tone about them chains. Yeah. Not no circus lion, son, I can't be tamed. You gon' have to kill me, pussy, Toby ain't my name. Y'all still want us think our history started when we were slaves? What? Come on now, talk about them pyramids we made. I was chosen by that man, you know y'all just been running game. The nerve of you acting like I ain't.
Well, family. Like I said, if you're just coming into the Campaign TV show, I am your host, Brother King Cam, and I have a very, very special guest that's joining us tonight. Our sister has been featured on BET and on American Gangster as part of the Trap Queen series. My sister is an author, and she has a very amazing story that I had to bring to the platform to have her share her story with us and how it changed her life, how it impacted her, and how it's impacting thousands and millions of people today. And I'm talking about none other than my sister Thelma Wright, formerly known as the Queen of Philly. They dubbed her the Queenpin on the show. So I just wanted to introduce my sister and bring her on. Let's give her a virtual round of applause, family. Let's do that. Let's make sure we do that. In the comment section, family. In the comment section. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. All right, Sister Thelma. So just let us know a little bit about yourself and anything that I might have missed out on.
Well, I want to first thank you for having me. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity tonight. And basically, I'm from Philadelphia, where I am now. And I grew up in a two-parent household with 5 siblings, educated in a Catholic school system, graduated from school to possibly go to college, decided I wanted to just kind of hang out and be with my friends and those kind of things. And met someone who was heavily involved in the drug trade, fell in love with him. Eventually we moved in together, had a son together, and were married. In 1986, he was killed. August of 1986, he was killed. And right after his demise, I stepped in and took over his drug business.
Wow, family. Let's go ahead and give her a round of applause for the intro, family. And one of the things that I noticed from watching the show, because I watched it, I actually watched it twice. And when I watched it, I was just so amazed because at the beginning of your story, you were just in a relationship with a brother who happened to be in the drug trade. And, you weren't privy to the business necessarily. You wasn't heavily involved in things of that nature. And you were just kind of, part of the lifestyle. But then, as you mentioned, in 1986, he was tragically murdered. And after he was tragically murdered, you decided to step in. So what was the impact of his murder, how did that impact you and your son, and then what influenced you to step in?
Well, his murder changed my life drastically. I mean, my son was only 3 at the time, turning 4 the following month. And so when one of his associates came to me to pay a debt, which if the audience knows about the drug trade, people just don't do that. When,
Right.
they just don't. When someone dies, normally people feel like, oh, I don't have to pay. But this man had been close to my husband for many years. And, when he came to me, he said, well, this is what was owed, and we got to keep going. Well, that never crossed my mind. I was living in LA at the time because my husband had sent my son and I out there for our safety. And I never thought about that. You know what I mean? And I feel now when I look back on it that he caught me at a very vulnerable time because I didn't really think about the what if. You know what I mean? What if something happened to me? I didn't think about that. So it was in the planning stages of my husband's funeral. So I explained to him that I needed to lay him to rest, and then I would talk to my husband's connect to see if that was even possible. Because like I said, I hadn't thought about it. And so my husband's connect at that time was an older female. And so I explained to her that, paid her the money. And I explained to her that they wanted to keep going. And she said, yes, that was possible for us to do. So the following month, that's what we did. But his death changed my life completely.
Yes, ma'am. And they go over that part in the movie as heat and stuff started to increase in the city of Philadelphia. They decided, or your husband decided, to go ahead and move you all from Philadelphia out to L.A. So that you could be safe from any of the any of the different things that was going on in Philly, the heat that may
Exactly.
be on him. So out in LA, you actually opened up your own business out in LA. It was a boutique shop, correct?
Well, what happened out while I was out in LA, a friend took me to a factory where they were making custom made jogging suits. And in the late 80s, that was big. Everybody was wearing the Fila and the Gucci and different things, Sergio, different sweatsuits. And so I went there and I had a suit made for myself and for my son. And when we came back to visit on the East Coast, a friend of mine saw it and she placed orders. And then someone saw her orders and they placed orders. And my husband was still alive at the time. So quite naturally, he wanted to help and, place orders. So it just started to snowball. You know what I mean? And so after his demise, I decided, okay, I would really step into this. And so that's what I did. And my partner at the time was doing all of the making sure that everything was correct in the warehouse, where I would go out and do the marketing and, get all the orders and those type of things. So eventually I opened up my own location in Gardena, California. And then it got so big so fast that we merged to the factory. So we had workers who were, making the patterns, and everything was custom according to what you wanted. If you wanted graphic work on it, we had someone who would handle all the graphic work, and it just moved on from there. And so when I decided to come back to the East Coast, I opened up a boutique on the East Coast. And I was doing not only the custom made jogging suits and tour jackets for athletes and entertainers, I was also handling men's clothing like silk jackets and silk shirts and things like that. So it did pretty well.
Okay, okay. So you had a store on the West Coast in LA where you started, and then you end up opening up a second location on the East Coast. And
Hmm.
is that where you got the more of your celebrity clientele on the East Coast, or did you have that in the West Coast as well?
My celebrity clientele came from the West Coast because
Okay.
I was doing a lot for the record labels like Capitol Records, Arista Records, Atlantic, and then I was Atlantic Records, and then I was also doing for the entertainers. So,
Okay.
that all happened on the West Coast.
Okay, okay, wow, wow. Okay, so now you had two shops or two stores, East Coast and West Coast, and then, as you mentioned, 1986, your husband is murdered, and after your husband is murdered, what is going through your mind as it pertains to you said a associate of his had came to you to pay a debt, and said that we gotta keep moving. Now in the show they said that a lot of his crew, brother Jackie's crew, was saying, hey, we got to keep going, we got to keep making this money. Who else but you to keep it going, because the operation, or so they assumed it, because you were so close obviously to brother Jackie. So what was going through your mind as it was like, okay, they saying we got to keep going, we got to keep keep this drug thing going. What was your mindset at that time?
The most important thing to me was to keep my son safe. I didn't want to go through what Jackie had gone through. So, I was living on the West Coast. My family was on the East Coast. I kept my son on the West Coast with me. And in the summer months, he would come back on the East Coast. So it was more like, I was bi-coastal, and it was about constantly moving. You know what I mean? Don't stay one place too long, move around. So that way people couldn't kind of pinpoint what I was doing and what was going on. And then, I had become accustomed to living a certain way. So, I just continued to live the way that I had been living.
Okay, makes sense. It sounded like you were just able to kind of flow and keep everything still, up to where it had already been for a certain amount of years. So it didn't really catch the eye of people, because it wasn't a sudden change as far as your
Exactly.
lifestyle and things of that nature. So,
Exactly.
they said that it was a 5 year. You had a 5 year run. Now, could you talk about how it was? Making the deals, and just really living that life, because a lot of people, they hear about it in music and things of that nature, but from a first person perspective, a point of view, can you talk about really, because they called you the Queen of Philly, so how was that on your shoulders as actually really running the city of Philadelphia?
Well, actually, back in that time, unless I was doing business with you, which I was very selective about who I did business with, when I started out, I was doing business with the people that were closest to Jackie, people that were left from the drug war. Some people had died. So, their mindset was just like mine. Let's just get this money, no bloodshed, no violence, you know what I mean? And try to stay as low as possible. There was a lot of money being made. And so, they had a vested interest as well as myself having a vested interest. So, they wanted to protect me because they knew if anything happened to me, then they would have to go and try to find another connect. Could they do that? Probably so. But connects at that time were not readily available. You know what I'm saying? And so, we kind of kept things really close to the vest. So, if, like I said, if you were not doing business with me, you didn't know what I was doing.
Okay, so most people that end up in these situations, a lot of people that end up in these situations, they're making a lot of money, they're making a lot of moves, and then they end up on the radar some kind of way. Some kind of
Hmm.
way they end up on the radar of the federal law enforcement and things like that. So could you talk about your method, if you will, of trying to stay off of the radar? I know you mentioned that everybody was about business, so obviously keeping the violence down to a minimum, but also just going into it from a businesswoman standpoint, because you actually had legitimate business as well. How what was your mindset every day, and also how much money were you making, if you don't mind sharing?
I'll just share with you that there was a lot of money. You know what I mean? There is no statute of limitations on IRS. The
Okay,
IRS,
okay,
so people will know, the IRS can come at you at any time.
got it, got it.
Anytime. So, I could never say, matter of fact, I never really counted, you know what I mean? But I do know back then in those times, drugs were different. The drug was pure at that time. So let's just say hypothetically, if you had an ounce of heroin and you spent $1,000 on an ounce of heroin at that time, you may be able to put a 14 on that, which is a 14 cut. So you're cutting that 14 times. You're going to make $14,000 off that 1,000 that you invested. This is the way things were back then. I don't believe they're like that now, but this is how it was at that time. But my mindset was to keep my son safe and to keep myself safe, because I was a woman in a man's game. And I had already saw what happened when people feel as though you don't deserve what you have, or even if you may look out for them, eventually there's going to be a problem because they want to move you out. They may want to know who your connect is. So, the whole objective is to find out who your connect is to get rid of you, if the connect is willing to fool with these people. Now, the thing about, my relationship with my husband's connect, we were two women. And so she was like a mother figure to me and like a grandmother to my son. So she really looked out for me. And this was something that, she had given her word on before Jackie died. That he asked her while we were in LA to look out for us. And she literally took that to heart, and she did. So it would have been difficult for someone to infiltrate the relationship that we had. You know what I mean? But I wasn't into promoting what I did. I wasn't what they call now that rah-rah girl. You know what I mean? I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
more into being a businesswoman. And I didn't go around, promoting and soliciting people to do business with me in the drug trade because I knew how dangerous that was.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with you being a woman in a man's world, in a man's game at that time, how did that affect your ability to handle business and to go into certain spaces? Because, obviously, your husband had a reputation in the city of Philly and probably abroad as well. So, did that help you in your ability to handle and do business in these certain circles, or you had to establish yourself on your own merit?
No, I never had to establish myself. The people that I did business with, they loved Jackie, they respected Jackie, so they respected me as his wife. And like I said, their mindset was equal to mine. No violence. This is not about violence. We're not going to hurt you in any way. We just want to get money. Let's get this money. And so it was a cash and carry business. You know what I mean? You had to pay for what you wanted. I didn't have areas and territories and workers. I didn't do that.
Okay,
And I
okay.
think that is what really kept me safe. You know what I mean? I didn't have to go to corners and, find out about my workers and are you doing this and are you doing that? I didn't have to deal with that. You know what I mean? I could have never dealt with that. I didn't have an army. I had people that protected me, but I didn't have, I wasn't Jackie and I wasn't trying to be Jackie. I was just trying to
Okay.
live. I was trying to make as much money as I could, invest money, and make sure that my son was okay, and make sure that I held true to the promise that Jackie and I had made, which was to try to give our son the best education that money could buy. That's really what it was all. It was about survival for me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, as you making money in the drug trade and, you making your different moves and things like that, you also open another business in the city of Philly, which was a comedy club or a comedy lounge that you
Exactly.
opened up in the city. Could you talk to us about that and, how you was able to get that up and running as well?
Well, Jackie died the day before my birthday. And so I never wanted to mourn. I just, it was almost like I could never forget. I'll never forget it. But I just, I wanted to go on. I wanted to go on, and I didn't want to be sad. And so my husband died in 86. In 87, I had a big birthday party in LA because I didn't want to be sad. So I planned this big birthday party, and a friend of mine mentioned that he knew a comedian by the name of Robin Harris. So he asked me to go to what was it called? It was a comedy club in on Crenshaw that I went to where Robin was performing, and Regency West. That was the name of it. And I went there and I met Robin and I saw his show that night. And I told him about my birthday party, and he said, "Sure, I'll come." So Robin came to my birthday party, and he brought Martin Lawrence with him, and also Tommy Davidson performed that night. So by me
Okay.
doing a party, in LA in 87, I said, well, 88, I got to do a party in Philly.
Right.
So there was a club in Philly, a small jazz club, privately owned jazz club in Philly, where I shut the whole club down and I had a private birthday party in 88. Robin and Martin were filming Do the Right Thing at that time in New York, in Harlem. And I talked with Robin, and I asked Robin, would he come, for the birthday party? He said, sure, send a car for me. So I sent a car, sent the limo. They picked him up, they came out, and he performed at my birthday party. And that was the first time he had done Bebe's Kids in Philly.
Oh wow.
And yeah, he did Bebe's Kids for my guests in Philly. And then the following year, I had another event, but this time it was for Robin to come and perform, but I sold tickets for this event. It was
Okay.
standing room only. And so Robin and I had talked about, doing some things on the road. I connected him with a friend of mine in Cleveland that was doing comedy shows. We had gone to Cleveland. I had sent a few other comedians to Cleveland, and that's pretty much how it started and how it picked up.
Okay, okay. So you were just making connections and building a network, and then started bringing more comedians to perform at the club, because I know it was I can't think of the brother name off the top of my head,
Michael
but he was
Blackson.
Michael Blackston. There we go. Yep, Michael Blackston was saying that you was the only person that
Yes.
was giving the up and coming comedians and artists an opportunity to come and perform, and they was forever thankful and
Yes.
grateful for you for that. So, could you talk about how you was getting a lot of the up and coming people to come in
Sure,
and perform?
sure. I don't know about R&B, but comedians, they really network with one another. If there's a room where they can go and perform and you treat them good, they're going to tell everybody. And my phone used to ring off the hook for comedians, all over that wanted to come in. I mean, we flew some comedians in. We brought people in from New York. I had,
Wow.
like, for instance, Bill Bellamy,
Oh wow.
Joe Torre, Hamburger Talent,
Wow.
Michael Blackson, of course,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Oh,
Chris
you had
Thomas.
some a
Remember
lot of
Chris
you had a
Thomas?
lot of come
Yes,
you
a
had a lot of
lot of
them come through.
yes, they came through, and then we afterwards we would have a party. It was on Wednesday night, and it was sort of like an open mic type thing, and then afterwards, it would be a big party. So it would be packed on Wednesday nights. We started out at Morgan's, and then we moved for a short period. I think it was one night. I tried to do a show at this place called Studio West in West Philly, but it was more like an OK Corral type setting. No
Mm-hmm.
one really showed up. So Bill Bellamy came that night, and he said, you know what? He said, when you decide to do it again, you find another location, I'll come back. And he did. So we ended up at the Penn Towers Hotel, which was right on the University of Pennsylvania campus.
Mm.
And that's where we were doing our shows there. It was really, really nice.
That's what I'm talking about. Black business, family, and really, doing a lot of the things that you don't see people doing today when it comes to just getting and reaching back to get that up and coming talent. I know for myself, being in music and things of that nature, from in the city that I'm originally from, the promoters and stuff, they like to bring in big name artists, but they don't really like to promote and put on the local artists to help them get their name out and to kind of
Mm.
generate buzz in the city. So what you was doing, catapulted a lot of people's careers right out of your own business. So could you talk about your business partner that was helping you with the comedy club and everything like that? And then there was a situation where there was a situation that happened where you was at gunpoint. They had you at gunpoint, and then he was ended up being killed. So could you talk about that?
Yeah. So when I started out at Morgan's, I was doing it alone. And then when I had to move from Morgan's because Morgan's was too small, and I went to Studio West that same night, I ran into an old friend of mine, Naeem. And he
Mm.
asked me, was I doing it? Who was I doing it with? And I said, well, I was doing it alone. He said, well, if you need any help, I'll help you. And so when I moved to the Penn Tower Hotel, which was, like I said, at the University of Penn campus, I contacted him and said, hey, I'll need help with this. So he came on board, and he was really instrumental in bringing a lot of the crowd there. People were coming
Mm.
from all over, the city. And so it was really, really doing well. And so this one night in July, there was an event coming up, and we needed tickets, extra tickets. I was selling tickets for this event, and we needed extra tickets, but we had to go to that same club, Studio West, to meet someone to get the tickets. And when we got there, little did we know it had been an argument with two fractions who really didn't get along with each other. But it
Mm-hmm.
appeared that when we came, that we were like the cavalry or whatever. It was me and about five or six other brothers. And when we got there, the club was letting out. Yo-Yo had performed that night, and the club was letting out, but it was just like an eerie kind of a feeling. I just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And Naeem found out that there had been an argument between two brothers, and he went over to talk to one to try to cool things out. And all of a sudden, the shooting erupted,
Mm.
and someone grabbed me from behind and threw me down and leaned on top of me behind a dumpster and kept me safe behind a dumpster while the gunfire played out. And I mean,
Mm.
it seemed like it was never going to stop. And
Wow.
when it did stop and he looked out from the dumpster, Naeem was laying there. He had been hit, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
ended everything. I mean, I didn't even want to come out after that. You know what I mean? It was just a scary thing, because when we leaned from behind the dumpster, it was my one of my friends who had pulled me down, and he saw this guy walking toward us with a shotgun. He said, "Man, don't come over here. We got a woman here." And when
Mm-hmm.
I went to spin to turn from him, that's when he was holding the shotgun to my head. By the
Wow.
grace of God, he didn't pull the trigger. I
Wow.
never saw him. I only saw the shotgun, and from the waist down, I remember beige khakis. That was all I saw.
Mm, mm, mm. So, your story is so compelling, because, not only is it a tale of, entrepreneurship and business, love and romance, but also violence. And from, the murder of your husband in 86, to now the murder of a close associate of yours and business partner of yours. What's going through your mind as you are participating in the drug trade and have seen all of this violence? What is going through your mind as to, how to protect myself? What things should I be expecting? If I go here, what could happen here? What's kind of your mindset as it pertains to the violence?
My mindset was, I just wanted to get away. I just wanted to go away. And the crazy thing is, right after that, within a week or 2 weeks, one of my associates gets arrested. We were
Hmm.
at this point moving the drugs through the mail.
Oh, yes, yes. Talk about
Moving
that.
the
Yes,
drugs
talk
through
about
the
that.
mail. And the rule was that you never call on the drugs because it's not legal. So
Right.
you're not supposed to call and track it down like you would an Amazon package.
Right. Hmm.
But this brother, he kept calling. I guess he was nervous because things were slowing down. Our
Hmm.
product was slowing down. Things were kind of coming now, intermittently.
Mm.
And so and that happens. I mean, you be up and then you be down.
Ebbs
You know
and
what I mean? You
flows.
got to
Okay.
prepare for that.
Okay.
And so, I had told him, don't call. If anything happens, let me know. We'll take care of it. We had been doing business the whole run. We never had a
Hmm.
problem. But he
Hmm.
kept calling, and finally it was infiltrated by the DEA. DEA delivered a package to him, and he was arrested. So I get it. Back then we had pagers. They'll go beep 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 beep.
Hmm. Hmm.
A pager's going off 911. Now I'm dealing with the death of Naeem. And so now I get this call that he's been arrested. So when I contact my connect to let her know, she says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything," because we knew we have been sending so many packages, so many places. We
Hmm.
knew that they were going to be able to backtrack some of these packages, where these packages were coming from.
Right.
I myself had never sent the package, but the
Right.
packages were coming from the West Coast. So we knew, but she said she would take care of it, she would handle it. So we made a pact that we would only talk like once a week or every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Either she called me or I'd call her. And so we spoke about a week later, and she did tell me that the postal inspectors did come out. They talked with her, and she felt confident that they would come back, but that she would handle it. She didn't want me to worry. Well, a couple of weeks passed, and I hadn't heard from her. A friend came by to see me, to check on me, and I asked him to drive me to the payphone so I could call her. And when I got to the payphone and I called, I spoke to one of her relatives who informed me that she was dead. She had taken a ride with someone, And wherever they went on the east side of Los Angeles, everyone in the house had been killed, and she had been killed. So to me, there was nothing else for me to do but completely walk away from that life. Completely. No other options. No second guessing, no what am I going to do? Just that's it. Because I
Wow.
knew if I continued to live the life I was living, I was either going to go to jail or I was going to get killed.
And that was going to be my follow up question. Did you think that these were kind of like signs, or did you take them as like signs to say, okay, especially the last one, is this something that if I continue, then it's gonna touch me next, like
Oh,
physically touch me now. It's been, it's kind of like how all the dominoes falling around you type
exactly.
of thing, and you like, okay, if I keep going, oh, I'm gonna be the next one to fall.
Exactly.
At that point, you was like, I gotta wash my hands and I have to be done with it because you could feel it, like it was almost like you could feel it.
God had given me the signs. And if I didn't take heed to those signs, something bad was going to happen to me. Something really bad was going to happen to me. So to me, it was, and I would think, what's going to happen to my son? Yeah, he had my parents and my siblings who were very instrumental in his life, but that's not the same as having your mother. His
Right.
father was already gone. So to me, there was no other option but to walk away.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as you decided to go ahead and walk away, and uh, a lot of close associates, grandmother figure. I believe her name was
Auntie. Mm-hmm.
Auntie.
Mm-hmm.
Auntie had passed away as well. So at this point, you're walking away from the game and you done with it. Now, what? How does this new transition, new life look for you? Because do you still have the boutiques? Are they still running? Obviously, you stopped doing you wasn't as active, I guess, with the comedy club. But did you still have the boutiques and things like that? What was the transition looking like for you? How does Thelma Wright pivot now out of from a 5 year run in the drug game?
I shut everything down. Everything. No comedy clubs, no boutique, nothing. I completely went underground for a while. I just it was too much. Actually, it was too much too soon. You know what I mean? Like I knew that I needed to do what my husband told me to do, which was get a job and go to work. That's what he really wanted me to do. And so, to me, that was the only option was to get a job. Now, what kind of job am I going to get? I started working for a temp agency,
Mm,
making menial money, but I had peace of mind.
right.
You know what I mean? I had peace of mind. And so, that's what was important to me, to be at peace. Forget all I had cars, I had a home, I was okay. I had my son in school, but I had to figure out how am I going to maintain these things.
Mm,
And so, I went to work and eventually just climbed myself back to a level where I could sustain. And thank God I had my parents to help me. You know what I mean?
yes.
But
Yes.
what was most important was keeping my son in that school.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So how does Thelma Wright transition from the drug dealer to the businesswoman and the woman that we see today?
I started. I had been to real estate school when my husband was alive. He used to watch the baby, and I'd go take my classes and all. So we had often talked about investing in real estate, which I eventually did. And so I learned pretty much every aspect of real estate. I just never got my real estate license, but I knew about mortgages and managed property management. I had tenants and things like that. So eventually I got into property management. And I, in 2009, after working in banking in Maryland, I'd lost my job in Maryland, came back to New Jersey, and I got a job for a nonprofit organization that dealt with drug, alcohol treatment, and mental health. And I became the property manager for one of their sites, which had 22 units. and it was all single mothers who were heads of household and their children. And as you saw in that first documentary that was done for Gangsters America's Most Evil, you see me sitting behind the desk there. And that's where I worked as the property manager there. And so, it gave me an opportunity to see the other side. You have that side of where you're selling drugs, but then you get to see the side of the repercussion of using drugs, because I had never used drugs. And so, I knew about people getting high. I saw people get high, but I myself had never experienced that. And so it gave me an opportunity to see that. And that's when I decided to write my book. 2010 is when I decided to write the book, and the book was released July of 2011. I'm coming up on 10 years this month. So, I transitioned into that, but it felt good to be able to contribute. And to me, it was a form of giving back. You know what I mean? To hold parenting classes with the women, to sit and listen and talk with them and be an example for them, to show them that you can change, your life can change. I had an opportunity to talk with quite a few of them about my background, even before the book came out. But then once the book came out, they were completely blown away to know what I had come through.
Right. And even earlier in your life, before you had even got into the drug game, you had dealt with some different things in your personal life as it pertains to, uh, uh, in your relationship
Abuse.
with certain, yes, abuse
Yes.
in
Yes.
your relationship and things like that. So how was that experience helpful in connecting with the women now who were in these different properties, in these shelters that may have gone through the exact same thing?
It helped them because, I used to always hear from various women, you understand, because they knew I'd been there. And when you're in an abusive situation, I talk about this all the time, you know, unless you've been through an abusive situation, you're not really going to understand, because the first thing that people want to know, why did you stay? Why
Right.
did
That's
you
the number
do,
one question.
that's the number one. Why did you stay? Why did you do? They don't understand, and I'm a person who loves hard. If I'm with you, I'm with you until I decide that I'm no longer with you. I'm with you. And
Yeah.
so, it was difficult. I knew eventually that I wanted to get out of my situation, but it was going to take time. And, I didn't know how. I would think about, how am I going to raise my son? How am I going to give him the life that we've planned for with him? You know,
Right.
you get caught, you know what I mean? You get caught up. And by this time I had been with Jackie almost 10 years. You know
Right.
what I'm
Up until
saying?
that point.
Up until that point. And so it's not an easy transition, but when I'm talking with women who are in abusive situations, or they've come out of abusive situations, the first thing they say to me is, you understand. Because you don't want to talk to, a lot of times you don't want to talk to your friends, you don't want to talk to your family, because you don't want to be judged.
Right.
And
Right.
especially if you know that you're not ready yet to get out of it, you're going to stay there. So what's that going to do? Piss them off? Everybody's mad with him, and but the love is still there for you. So it takes time. Some people get it a lot quicker than others. It takes time. You know what I mean? And so in my speaking, like today, and hopefully I'll reach someone who will see and understand. I do understand. You know what I mean? And people should not be so judgmental about things that they really don't understand.
Absolutely. In the scripture, Jesus said, let him without sin cast the first stone.
Absolutely.
So, that's talking about those who like to judge prematurely or judge in general and don't look in the mirror at the sins that they have committed themselves. So
Exactly.
while we like to throw stones but live in glass houses, that's not a good thing, because everybody has skeletons in the closet.
In the closet.
And even to go a bit further into your story, when you met Brother Jackie, he was not always like that. A lot of people come into relationships and those red flags and those things happen like early on, because that's a part of the person's character, personality, and things that they dealing with, the traumas that they dealing with. But brother Jackie was not like that in the beginning. That was actually an incident that caused him to be shot and injured, and then in the part of him having to take medications to deal with the pain and all of that kind of stuff, kind of led to some other things that led to that situation. So could you just talk about that a little bit? Because again, brother Jackie wasn't like that when you first met him.
No, not at all. I mean, he was I didn't see that, when we
Right.
first started going out. He was very considerate, very caring, very generous, charismatic type man. You know what I mean? But in 1978, he was shot. He was hit in a crossfire. There
Trying
was
to make
a shootout,
peace. He
trying
was
to
trying
make
to
peace.
make
Once
peace.
again, trying to
Once
make
again,
peace.
trying to make peace.
Trying to make peace. And he was hit in the arm, but the bullet traveled through his arm, through his lung, up through the well of his neck. And so, I thought he was going to die. And he came through that. But when he came through that, he was taking pain meds. And he told me years ago, way before I met him, he used to take pills. He was a pill taker.
Oh
You know
wow.
what I
Okay.
mean? And he
Okay.
got himself together. I really admired him because, he knew he always wanted to be better. He always wanted to do better. And he could stop. He could know that he was doing something and he could stop just like that. No rehab, no, And
Right.
so, but in going through this, he became someone that I didn't know. He became
Yes, ma'am.
someone that I had never seen before. But by this time, I'm in love with him.
Right.
I'm in love with this man. And I know that he's going through changes. I don't fully understand. I'm 22 years old, 21, 22. You know what I mean? I don't
Right.
fully understand, but I know I love him and I want to be with him. So I'm going to try to ride this thing out. So it was, tumultuous type relationship, up and down, in and out, breakup, even
Yes.
in my own shooting. I talk about that in my book, with Eyes
Talk
from
about
Both
that.
Sides. I talk about the shooting because he was getting high. His partner had died suddenly from a heart attack, and they were out collecting. As I said early on, trying to collect money that's in the street when someone dies is hard.
Right.
And so they were out, trying to collect this money. It was my birthday once again, and I hadn't talked with him that day. I had been at work, and when I got off of work, I went to see him. One of his friends had recommended, no, don't, because he knew he was high. I didn't know he
Yeah.
was high.
Okay.
And so when we talked, I was a little upset with him because it was my birthday and I hadn't talked to him all day. And usually my birthday, he would buy stuff or take me out or whatever. I don't fully understand what's going on in the street at this time. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so he told me to go home. He said, we'll talk about it later, go home. And I went to walk away from him, but I looked back, in disgust and anger, spoiled, angry, and I saw the gun, but I wasn't afraid. I had seen him with guns lots of times. I wasn't afraid. And I went to take a step and I was shot in the leg. He shot me in the leg. And he said, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean, I shot too straight. No, you should have never pulled a gun on me.
Right.
So
Right.
that was an ongoing thing. We broke up we broke up. We went our separate ways for a short period of time, because I was very hurt. I was embarrassed. I was hurt. I didn't understand how you could do that to me. I was no threat to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's abuse. To me, love shouldn't hurt.
Right. Yes,
When you
ma'am.
love someone, it shouldn't hurt. And these are all the things that I've learned. You know what I mean? I had to learn by going through all of these things that I've been through. I've learned so much about life, so much about people, so much about relationships. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes, ma'am.
so, I just feel like my book can maybe help someone else.
Yes, ma'am.
Telling my story. People say, this is what I got. Why did you write that? Why did you tell? Because it was my story to tell.
Right. Right.
It
Right.
was my story to tell. It was heavy on my heart. It wasn't done for money. I had no idea. I'm a self-publisher. I had no idea what this book was going to do. My co-writer and I, we sat down, I gave her the information, pen and pad. She banged this thing out. She's an exceptional writer. See, Elise, she's a childhood friend who I love dearly. I mean, but it was something I wanted to do, not knowing where it was going to go. And look what God has done for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, maybe I can help someone else. When they read my story, they'll understand. I have heard women say, I've been there. That story is my story.
Right.
It's very
Right.
common, believe it or not, there's a lot of women who have been in the game. They may
Mm.
not have been to the level that I was at,
Right.
but they've done what they needed to do to survive.
To-
You know what I mean?
Right.
They've been in abusive situations and they've come from it. I've had people tell me my book saved their life. So I feel good about telling my story.
Eh,
I didn't hold anything back. I told exactly what happened to me, what
And the,
I did. You know what I'm saying? And I only have to answer to God. I don't have to answer to man. I have to answer to God for what I did. So
that's
I'm
right.
fine, with releasing my book and telling my story and helping someone else. That's what it's all about.
Yes, ma'am. And I was going to follow up with, do you think that writing your book and telling your story was therapeutic for you? Because what I often see in a lot of what we teach our students in the BWO, specifically when it comes to digital real estate, when we're talking about growing your brand online and attracting organic followers and things of that nature, it's about telling your authentic story and about using your story to connect with people who can relate to the story, and then ultimately they'll be able to relate to products, services, and things of that nature. So but what we see a lot of people going through, especially our people, is the traumas that they have been through. They hold on to it, which ultimately has a negative effect on them in business, in personal relationships, in business relationships. There's people that's holding on to trauma for 30, 40, 50 years, things that happened to them when they was like 3 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old, and they're grown 40, 50-year-old people, and they still cannot move past these things because they haven't let go of the trauma. They haven't released it. So do you think that telling your story, writing the book, was therapeutic in a way where you released it, so now it's out, it's off your heart, and now it's able to help somebody else?
Brother, it was so therapeutic because in working and I'm telling the story to see Elise, I had to relive everything all over again. I could
Right.
see things that happened. I could see Naeem laying there. I could see my husband being brought out in that body bag. You know what I mean? I could see these things. And um, after when Celie said we're done, I cried like a baby. I cried because it was such a release
Wow.
to get it out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I learned so much about people that I thought cared about me, about people that I thought were my friends. I learned a lot in telling my story. So to me, it's a win-win. These
Right.
are things that I needed to know. Clearly, I
Absolutely.
needed to help someone. And I'll tell you something else. I just recently came through breast cancer. I was
Wow. Yes,
diagnosed.
ma'am.
I was diagnosed with, thank you, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I
ma'am.
was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in August of 2019. So right before the pandemic, I was doing treatment, chemo, radiation, came through that. And I was thinking, oh, I'll be able to do this and do that after my treatment. Then the pandemic hit. So I
Right.
I had become accustomed to being away from people because I didn't want to compromise my immune system.
Right.
But writing that book and then going through what I went through with the breast cancer, I know exactly who has love for me. I know exactly who is there for me. My family has been amazing to the support that they gave me and took care of me because chemo was not easy, was not easy. And so, it's crazy about life how, God spared me for a reason.
That's right.
You know my story just from watching the documentary, and now I've told you about the cancer, but he spared me for a reason. And I promised God that I would do whatever I could to help people. You know what I mean? I think this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. He's
There
not
you
done
go.
with me yet.
There you go. There you go. And a lot of people have trouble trying to figure out what their purpose is. You know, a lot of times, a lot of us have gifts, we have talents, we have skills that we learn throughout life that we use in order for us to make a living for ourselves and things of that nature. But really, when you boil down to it, it's about finding your purpose and understanding why God placed you here so that he can use you and he can work through you to impact more people. And you're just
Exactly.
another example of God using you for his purpose and showing you what that purpose is so that you can now utilize all of the experience, all of the trauma, all of the ups and downs to be able to help somebody else that may be going through that same exact situation. Because a lot of the times, what people don't realize is that when we pray for answers and we pray for solutions, they come through other people. They come through the word, they come through the experience, they come through the lives of other people. So people who may be trying to figure out how to get from up under that abusive relationship, or somebody who may be struggling with trying to figure out what their purpose is in life, or who may be going down the exact same road that you rode down already, could stop them from prematurely doing those things and could change the trajectory of their life. So the work that's in front of you is so important and so
Yeah.
impactful and so meaningful to so many people out here that it's really it's really undescribable. So when it comes to the book, because we have some people in the comment section already saying they need to get the book. How can they get the book? Because your words and your story, your testimony was so impactful. They want to know where they can purchase the book. I know you said you were self-published, so do you have your own website? I know it's on Amazon, but I don't like to give Amazon no extra money. I wrote my own book, and I ain't trying to give Amazon no extra money. We want to keep all the bread. So if we can send them to your website, we'll send them to your website, so we ain't got to give Amazon no cut.
Well, it's easier, I think, for them to purchase it through Amazon. It's
Okay.
$15 Amazon, and then the ebook is $9.99. But if they want an autographed copy of the book, they can cash app the money to me with their name and the information for the autograph. That's a $25 fee if they cash app it to me, and then that includes the shipping. So I would ship it out to them. It takes a little longer, but they could also get it exactly through Amazon. They get it, I think, in 1 or 2 days if you get it through Amazon.
All right, family. So as you see, if you want to go ahead and get your copy of the book right here, With Eyes from Both Sides, Living My Life in and Out of the Game, you can order that via Amazon. You know, you got the paperback, you have the ebook that's available. Or if you want to go ahead and order your copy from Sister Thelma and get it autographed, the autographed copy from her, then we can go ahead and cash app you directly and get that. What's the cash app so we can go ahead and put that
It's
in the section?
it's the $sign, of course, Thelma
Mhm.
0808. Double check it. Make sure I'm not giving out the wrong information.
Okay, $ Thelma 0808, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
All right, family. So if you would like to purchase our sister book, With Eyes from Both Sides, you can purchase it via
And that's
Amazon if you like.
$25, right?
Yep. Or you could, and when you purchase it through you,
Through
it's
the cash app.
25, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that includes the shipping.
Okay, okay. So if you want to go ahead and purchase it through Amazon, get it in 1 to 2 days, you can do that. But if you want to help support my sister in a bigger way, you can cash app her directly, which is $Thelma 0808, $25. That covers your shipping, and you get an autographed copy of the book. Now, before we go, could you talk about just some of the things that you're doing today and how people can stay tuned in to what you got going on, where they can find you at on social media and things of that nature?
They can find me on Facebook at Thelma Wright. Let me see. I'm Thelma Wright on Facebook. And on Instagram, I am, and it's something you got to look yourself up. on on Instagram, I am Thelma B. Wright. And on Twitter, I'm Thelma B. Wright. Is that correct? Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah. Okay. All right. So on Twitter, I'm Thelma B. Wright. at Thelma B. Wright. On Instagram, I'm Thelma Wright, and that's Thelma, just like on the screen. And then on Facebook, I'm Thelma Wright. And on Facebook, I have an artist page as well as my own private page.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely, family. So you heard it there from our sister. If you want to get in contact with her, you can look her up on Instagram. You can look her up on Facebook. You can look her up on Twitter. Talk with my sister. Reach out. Connect. Create that relationship. Build those networks. And also, what can we look forward to from Sister Thelma Wright moving forward in the future?
Well, I have a mentoring program that I've actually should pick back up now that COVID the restrictions are easing up. So I have an empowerment program, and it's a mentoring program for at-risk young teen girls and women. I do men as well. I've gone into the prisons and spoken to the men as well as the women. So I'm going to be working that again. And hopefully, I'm looking forward to doing a book tour. I've never actually done a book tour before. So
Wow.
I would like to probably do something like that once the restrictions are over with and we can really travel safely and, really be around people. That's something I like to do. But right now I'm focused on more of my empowerment and mentoring program. And I will be, there's an event coming up July 23rd here in Philadelphia at FDR Park, which in people from Philly, we call the Lakes. And I'll be speaking to youth there on July 23rd. That's between 1 and 5 p.m.
Okay. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. So you heard that, family. If you in Philly, July 23rd, Sister Thelma Wright will be speaking to the youth at the Lakes, as they call it in Philly.
FDR Park, right?
FDR Park, or as they call it in Philly, the Lakes. So you can go make sure you check out that upcoming event to go ahead and make sure you get tapped in. And as Sister said, once they start to loosen up some of the restrictions, book tour coming soon, things of that nature. So we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing some of the beautiful work that you have. My sister, did you like to close us out with with closing remarks to the family?
Well, to everyone, I would just like to say I really appreciate all the support that people have been giving me through the years, because like I said, I'm going into a 10-year ride now. I have 2 documentaries, the book. So, I would just like to thank everyone, and I appreciate the support. I appreciate the words of encouragement that I've been receiving, through coming through my cancer as a survivor. I am now a survivor in remission. So I'm very grateful to that. And that's really it. I'm just grateful for everything. And I'm, grateful for the way people have really embraced me. It's been amazing. It's really been an amazing ride.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, again, from the Campaign TV show, we are thankful and so appreciative of you coming and sharing your time, your story, your testimony with us here. We certainly appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back soon. I want you to hang tight. Don't jump off just yet. But to the family, we'll thank you all for tuning in again to another wonderful episode of the podcast show here at the Campaign TV show with your brother, King Cam. Make sure you stay up to date on everything that we're doing. You can actually text podcast if you want to be a part of the community to 833-236-8658. Again, you can text the word podcast so you can be a part of the community to 833-236-8658 so that you can get all of the updates on upcoming interviews, exclusive footage, and things of that nature. Family, we're gonna go ahead and close out, and Sister Thelma, like I said, we're gonna hang back for a minute. Appreciate you, family. Love you, and I leave you in the greeting words of peace, as we say it in the Arabic language, of Assalamu Alaikum.
Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will enslave you. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own.
Not your average nigga, I'm a god out the hood. They can't downplay me. I came up, I'm elevated. I ain't gotta say too much for them to know I'm coming for what's mine. They see me in my presence, say they see how I'm coming. Young, but you not just gonna finesse me like you did my peoples. Then back when you said they was emancipated. This ain't that. Your head too big, you feeling yourself. The game wasn't fair, you had the advantage, we wasn't educated. I don't look at you people the same. Your worst nightmare, my skin tone about them chains. Not no circus lion, son, I can't be tamed. You gon' have to kill me, pussy, Toby ain't my name. Y'all still wanna think our history started when we were slaves? Come on now, talk about them pyramids we made. I was chosen by that man